Mark, you added off camera some interesting tidbit about writers that you were maybe surprised by.
Yeah, sometimes when I consult, I find that a writer is not able to, upon a second read, execute those notes, to make the draft like that much better, or say, well, this part wasn't working, and then it comes back and it's still not working, and that's going to be a problem in one's career if you can't execute notes, if you want to stay on. The idea is to stay on a project and not get fired, not just sell a script, because it's going to look bad if they take you off the project. And yeah, you might share credit, but you'll be known as like, you probably might not work with that producer again because you couldn't execute the notes. You want to be the only person on that, and it happens. There are other people that come in, and I've been on the other side where, I was hired to rewrite a script because the writer was given many chances to do notes and it just wasn't working. And so traditionally what they do, they tend to say, thank you very much, but we got to get somebody in here because we're not going to trash the project. We're still going to make it, but it's not moving where we need it to move, So I think that's very important is to be able to rewrite the script. And I think that comes from a place of knowing structure, knowing all the elements that it takes to write a screenplay. And many times, like with a script, I had to dismantle it to its essence and then start again. Like tear the house down, but leave the bathroom. We're like, okay, but it's still going to be a house, and we still want it to be, Mediterranean style, with 8 bedrooms. You're like, got it, but all this other stuff is not working. And like I was telling you off camera about, I just finished a polish, and then I got notes this morning. And it's a polish, so it's going through and refining, stuff. It's not like dismantling, it's switching things around, and it's maybe, hopefully, 3 or 4 days of work, maybe 5. But it's not a huge, you want to get to that point. If you do a polish, then you're like, oh, okay, most of it's settled, but this has to be, raised in this scene. It's too subtle, things like that. Or in this case, for reasons of production. So you go back through and you polish it because, we want to cut down the number of scenes. We want to streamline this aspect, things like that. But you have to be able to do that on your own screenplay, if you want to stay on the project. Executing notes is extremely important.
Do you think that the reason screenwriters or maybe new screenwriters aren't successful at that is a resistance, or they don't understand it and they're not trying to be difficult? They just can't see outside of their own idea for a story?
I think it's more that than resistance. Could be a little resistance because my words, my vision, and then you quickly learn like, well, it started to be your words and vision, and now it's a rewrite, and hopefully a lot of it stays, but it's a collaborative art form, and you want to be a team player to, work once, like I say, with my producer and directors I work with, once the script is now in the development process, my job is to help get it made, and then there are things that, like I say before, you fight for if you really believe in a change, and you'll talk respectfully and maturely and say, because you're talking to other creative people who aren't out to like make a bad movie per se. Sometimes it happens, but you say, well, I don't think this will really work because of this reason. And as long as you defend it, with concrete evidence, and then you can convince to keep it unchanged. But you also have to be open. And more times than not, thank goodness there's a producer to guide it, because, some of my choices are like, oh, I get why you're doing that. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah, that actually that's better. So it's not about who thought of what, because you're all in it together. You put the ego aside, and it becomes like, let's just all work together to get the movie made. The best version possible. But back to your point about, I do think it's just lack of experience possibly, where someone has never received notes maybe. They never had a critique on their script, so they wouldn't know how to go back in and make those changes. So that rewriting is a good way, rewriting your bad scripts, rewriting your good ones is a good way to gain that experience over multiple drafts and multiple screenplays, to be like, oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. But then you'll get into a situation where many producers are vague, you know what I mean? And so there's no school to go to where a producer, each, like I said before, each screenplay is a different experience out of the gate, different producer, different working experience. And one producer I worked with, I tried to capture what he was saying, and I felt bad if I went, oh, I don't quite understand, because then it makes me look like, what do you mean you don't understand? We hired, and then I start feeling like, oh, well, but it was all over, bouncing all over the map, big, broad ideas that were changed on the fly. Whoa. Did we go with this one or the other one? So you have to be ready for that, So, there's all sorts of situations, but execution of the notes, I just always have to say, is extremely important.
Yeah, that was my next question. That you already went there, but that was, what if it's, not to let the writer off the hook, but
Sure.
the notes that are being given are not clear, and so then the writer is fighting against that, or not even fighting, but just trying to understand.
Sometimes you'll have maybe the assistant you can go off to, and because you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing, and talk to them, and they'll be more than happy to be, I'm speaking on behalf of whatever. But I've been lucky that people I've worked with are like razor sharp, like, okay, page 48, and I love those kind of notes. I don't like the broad stroke notes, because it leaves it up to you, and then you go this way with it. And they're like, I wanted you to paint this way with a twist. You're like, okay, so, and then it gets bogged down in development hell, and no one's ever going to say that it's their fault. They're going to, you're not working, it's not working. And you just, oh, okay, all right. So.
Well, of the SAG screeners that you saw, or of some of the screeners or the films that you saw for 2019, what was the best script? What was the best writing of all of the films?
Well, I saw, it's funny, because a script, I look at, the scripts are available, so when you see the movie, I always look at the screenplay. And like Jojo Rabbit was literally on the page. And some scripts you read, because you don't know what draft you're getting, if it's a production draft or it was the final, you know what I mean? And it was like, oh, that's, because I always love to do that from years back, is to see a movie. You don't want to read the script before, because you'll ruin it. See the movie and then go back to see, like, oh, how would I have written that scene? And there's a particular scene, I won't say it in there, and I was like, and I looked, and it was exactly, we're not showing what we're not showing, and it was written on the page, and I was like, wow, that's a good thing for writers to do as well, and to read. You have to read all the time, screenplays, and I always say, be careful of the ones in award season, because they're in a protected bubble, so they're not specs, so you can get away with a lot more, because it is in development, what I'm saying, than your spec. I'm saying with regards to format and things like that, because you knew what you want, because we're on this protected bubble now. It's not a spec where I don't know you. I can only know you from what's on this page. You know what I mean? So I see some writers want to try to emulate certain styles. You know what I mean? But I just say, be careful, because those are either the directors writing the script for the screen and can put a lot more things in the script than, let's say, maybe a spec would or should.
What about dialogue of the 2019 contenders that you watched? Who had the best dialogue? And what was so great?
It's funny, Parasite, was talking about, don't be afraid of the 1.5 inch, subtitles. And I've always loved foreign films, so I had no problem with subtitles. But they all, Once Upon a Time, the dialogue, was really good. Tarantino. But I mean, they're all there for a reason, these movies. You know what I mean? There's some that didn't get nominated, and it was the snub, and you know. But we all should champion a year of great filmmaking, you know, rather than who didn't get the award or who wasn't nominated. You know, we have such a wide choice of stories and things now. To you know, it's gotten so much better because everybody's A game. You know, the game goes up. You know what I mean? And you can see like, well, that's not, you know, and who benefits but the filmmakers and also the viewers, you know.
I really like Bruce Dern's dialogue in Once Upon a
Yeah.
Time in Hollywood. That was really funny.
That was supposed to be Burt Reynolds to play that part.
Ah.
Yeah, he passed away, unfortunately. Oh. So yeah, it's just interesting how that would have made a different type of character. You know,
It's
I don't know,
true.
because Bruce Dern can kind of disappear into a character, and Burt was a great actor, I think, but he's still Burt Reynolds.
Sure.
You know, so how do you get around for that? And the last movie that he was in, I saw was what was it called? It was his last film before he passed away. It was great. He played a aging film star who goes to a film festival. I think it's called The Last Movie Star,
Okay.
possibly, yeah.